everybody as well. Good afternoon, and I appreciate you joining us today for the Ask the Expert series. This is our third Ask the Expert session. Previously, we had Joanna Forbes talk about HR. We had food service covered by Jeannie Keenan and Sue Geiser. The purpose of this series is just to keep our small business owners in the know. I'm Steve Schillig, and I'll be the moderator for the event today. I'm the director of the Small Business Development Center, headquartered at Kent State University, Tuscarawas. For those that are not familiar with the Small Business Development Center, we provide confidential, no-charge consulting. We have a team of specialized counselors with backgrounds in HR, food service, leadership, finance and accounting, QuickBooks and bookkeeping, computer technology, and marketing, which is what we are talking about today. Those resources are available to you on a confidential and a no-cost basis. We're still working on the working remotely, and my technology skills are generally lacking, so I appreciate your patience throughout this process. I have muted everyone for our speakers' benefit. If you have questions, please use the chat room. The chat room can be found in the ribbon below your screen. It is to the left of the phone, and if you hover over your mouse over it, it will read Show Conversation. And we have someone monitoring that chat room. We wanted to offer this workshop to provide some marketing tips on the reopening, restarting, and quite possibly the repositioning of your business. We're very pleased to have on the call today Cindy Miller and Erica Metzger. Cindy Miller has been a marketing consultant with the SBDC for 3 years. Is passionate about serving clients to help them succeed. She is a seasoned professional with over 20 years of experience in the field of marketing and advertising for companies in major television, newspaper, print, digital, manufacturing, and corporate environment. Her experience extends to both business to business and business to consumer segments. As the Director of Marketing for Lauren International and Corporate Director of Marketing for Provia, she was instrumental in many startup company launches and new product launches. Cindy's background includes research, marketing strategy, new product launches, channel marketing, and advertising and lead generation. She also is experienced in consumer marketing support for companies across the U.S. and abroad. Also want to introduce you to Erica Harris Metzger. She's currently the Vice President of Sourdough LLC with 10 plus years of experience in manufacturing, 7 plus years in marketing, direction and management roles. She specializes in corporate design, branding, and identity and business development. Erica is the creative connector. She uses creative strategy to make the vision an executable plan. As an artist, Erica sees the big picture and understands how intricate movements affect the outcome. She leads teams to leverage their unique talents in the pursuit of a cohesive masterpiece. Bold in the face of challenges, Erica thrives on the opportunity to deliver the wow factor that is only achieved with a tireless drive to make the vision a reality. After hours, Erica joins supporting community events and spending time with her husband and daughter. She recently joined our SBDC team, and we are fortunate to have her. As of yesterday, Erica shared with us a potential workshop in the future called Facebook Makeover, which would focus on the setup, the engagement and social selling, Facebook ads and offers, contests, etc. So look for a date of that event soon. Cindy and Erica through the SBDC are available for direct assistance. So if you have specific questions that did not get answered or you need additional help, please contact me directly. My contact information can be found in the presentation. This session, as I mentioned earlier, is being recorded. The slides and handouts that the presenters refer to will be emailed to you at the conclusion of the session. Before we start, I would like to mention our next Ask the Expert session. On June 18th at 12 p.m., we will be hosting Michaela Madison, who will present on identifying your target market. Who are you trying to reach? Her focus will be on marketing goals, examples of marketing goals, and a step-by-step process for identifying that target market. Mark your calendars now. If you have suggestions or recommendations on other topics or programs, please feel free to contact me or mention it in the chat room. Full disclosure, this process is obviously very fluid and changing rapidly. That is why direct assistance may be the best avenue for you and your business. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Cindy and Erica. Cindy, you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Steve. Hi, I'm Cindy, and Erica is with us as well. We hope that you're going to pick up some new information or being reinforced in your thoughts of what you already believe about marketing your business. The field of marketing, though, is so vast. We've approached this webinar from a COVID-19 perspective. Keeping that in mind, we're going to focus on some low-hanging fruit of marketing opportunities as businesses start to reopen and recover. We'll also take a look at what's changed and what to incorporate into the new normal. But most of what we'll be discussing are the best practices for what companies should be doing in any market environment. So let's begin. The title of this webinar is To Be or Not to Be Marketing in a COVID-19 World. We all know that COVID-19 has devastated many small businesses in 2020. But what are you telling yourself about what you should be doing in marketing or not in the midst of COVID-19? As you'll see throughout this presentation, many opportunities will present during hard times, but now is the time to enhance and adapt to what you've already been doing. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Yeah, it's not rolling, so.
Okay, so I'm going to run through some of the learning objectives. We'll be talking about should I be marketing in a COVID environment, but looking at the historical data that tells us what has happened in the past, how others have recovered from catastrophes. We'll be also looking at some trend predictions. We'll be looking at some low-hanging fruit on what you never had time to do before COVID-19. And we'll also take a look at social media, local search, and email marketing, all of which we consider the low-hanging fruit. But really, now's the time to begin to keep your brand top of mind. You can do that by focusing on your loyal customers. If you haven't already realized it, 80% of your business comes from 20% of your customers, and those are your loyal customers. This is also a time to retargeting your potential customers. And you do that by keeping yourself highly visible. Next slide, please. Glad we caught up. Okay, so let's take a look now at what the historical data tells us about catastrophic market downturns like the Great Depression and what their effects have been on marketing. I have two examples for you. The tendency, though, before I get into those examples, is for companies to slash their marketing budgets, their development budgets, their research, their product development budgets. But we'll see by these two examples that that's really not the right way to approach this. One example was the movies. Back in the Great Depression, they began, instead of pulling back, they began a creative discovery process and started bundling 2 tickets and sometimes even 3 admissions for 1 ticket. So what the result was then was that they increased their customer base and they outperformed their earnings by 41% in the following years. Another example is Procter & Gamble. We all know them to be the consumer giants that they are today, but back then in the Depression, instead of cutting their advertising and their development budgets, they began by sponsoring some radio serials, which was a new endeavor for them that aimed at their homemakers, which was their core audience. And in 1933, they debuted the first Oxydol's Own Ma Perkins series, and women around the country quickly fell in love with the Tales of the Kind Widow. The program was so successful that P&G started cranking out similar programs to support its other brands. And by 1939, they were producing 21 radio shows, and they hence pioneered what we call the soap opera. So now you know the rest of the story. Next slide, please. During such times, though, you're going to see many opportunities emerge. No downturn is exactly the same. You really want to hone in on identifying and meeting your loyal customers and your best customers' needs during these times. Instead of slashing your budgets with a machete, you should think about taking a scalpel to it. Yes, budgets are going to need trimmed. Yes, you need to pull back somewhat, but just slashing across the board is the wrong approach. Carefully adjust your strategies and your tactics and your products. You may have some dogs in your product line. Yeah, you want to trim those out, but trimming is the key word there, not slashing. And also be paying attention to the psychology behind market catastrophes. They create profound challenges and changes in your target audiences, and also for us marketers, for when the crisis is going on as well as when it recovers. Next slide, please. What you need to know is that your customers have adapted to the event. I mean, I think we have lots of evidence of that already in this COVID environment. Fear and government mandates permeate our environment. Social distancing, masks, hand washing, scheduling visits, increased online ways of doing business, etc. Those are all ways that we've adapted. But some of those adaptations, like online business, have already started as a trend prior to COVID. So we'll get into that more later. But research tells us that the first step in responding to a change is understanding the psychology and what's driving the customer segments. Now, typically we segment customers by age, gender, income, so on and so forth. Instead, the research has shown us that these four groups emerge during catastrophes. So let me go through them a little bit for you here. The slam on the brakes segment are the people who feel that they're the most vulnerable and the hardest hit financially. They reduce all types of spending by eliminating, postponing, decreasing, or substituting purchases. They're usually lower income folks who tend to fall into this segment, but that also very anxious higher income consumers can fall into this group as well, particularly those that are concerned about their health. So I would classify maybe the elderly and the immunosuppressed folks in this group as well. In COVID, though, we've already talked about what kind of groups might emerge here. The pain but patient segment then tend to be more resilient and optimistic for the long term, but in the short term, they're maintaining their standard of living, but they're a little nervous. They're usually the largest segment, and they have a wide range of income, and the majority of the households are not affected by unemployment. As things get worse, though, they could migrate over to the slam on the brakes segment. The comfortably well-off segment feels secure about riding out the wave of economic trouble and consume at near their former levels, but they tend to be a little bit more selective on purchases, and this is usually the 5% of the upper income bracket, and those less wealthy that feel pretty comfortable in where they are and the stability of their finances. And finally, the Live for Today segment. This segment carries on as usual for the most part. Typically, they're urban or younger people, and they spend on experiences in electronics, no surprise there. And they're less likely to change their consumption unless they become unemployed. Next slide, please. Consumers, though, in all four of these groups begin to emerge, and they prioritize their spending by grouping products and services into these categories. And remember, this is historical. This is not just for today. So you can carry over this thought process to today. And this goes on time and time again. In the catastrophic event, phases, they begin to spend on essentials, which are necessary for survival, things like food, water, shelter, medical supplies, and such. Treats. They'll also spend on those indulgences when they consider them justifiable. Like my family likes to go to Softies and other ice cream places like that, so that would be considered a treat. Postponables are needed but wanted items that can be put off till later. Perhaps that might be a car purchase or a new washer, a new dryer, something like that. And then finally, the expendables. They're perceived as unnecessary or unjustifiable. And I think you can classify vacations or things like that in that kind of in a category. But the research does suggest that some key trends will emerge or change as a result of COVID-19. Next slide, please. So here are some trend predictions. Online purchasing. That's not really a huge surprise. However, the businesses that have adopted online purchasing as differentiating from what they've formerly done are really helping consumers out as well as helping their businesses. We saw trends arise from this prior to COVID with the closure and shuttering of many brick and mortar stores. Online purchasing, I believe, is a necessity in this environment as well as in the future. Delivery services as well, like restaurant, food, and other. So let's say you were in the luxury purchase segment, for example, and you're a luxury car producer. Start thinking creatively on how you can incorporate some of what you heard about the history into some of the predictions and what you're seeing now and how it can move you forward. So for example, in delivery services, if you're a luxury car producer or seller, you might want to consider how can you leverage online selling with delivery services and really differentiate your business at this time and moving forward. Also, some trends we're seeing are increased media consumption. So a lot of consumers have found new ways to purchase their media since they're not able to go to the movies or they're not able to attend events or music. They're adopting new consumption patterns on this. Netflix and all of the streaming services have really seen a bump during COVID. An example that I personally experienced recently was an online concert. It was a horn concert. In fact, one of our local former band directors in Dover was a participant, where all these horn musicians all over the country participated in a symphony that someone mixed it and then produced it and featured it on YouTube. It was a wonderful way to still experience a concert, and those are just some examples of how new media is being consumed. So if you are adopting delivery services and online purchasing, think of ways that you can start producing some media or reaching out with these kind of new concepts. And then finally, luxury purchases. No surprise, they're declining except for health, food, medicine, disease, and pandemic prevention products. Again, back to that luxury car example. If you can incorporate some of these other things, you might find that you aren't going to suffer quite as badly. And then finally, out-of-home or in-person events, they're also declining. But as I mentioned with the online concert, I'd find ways to adapt your media mix so that you can still present your business and your products to your consumers. Okay, so that leads us up to our marketing roadmap. And Erica's going to take it from here and present to you the marketing roadmap.
Thank you, Cindy. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to take a moment and start by saying that we have vast group of businesses represented here today. Thank you for that. Cindy and I have put together a high-level run-through of general marketing initiatives that have been proven to be beneficial to all types of businesses, no matter what the level of marketing you are currently functioning at. So, we're expecting some of you to just be starting at the beginning of your journey. I'm sure we have many of you with some advanced needs, and then plenty of you, I'm sure, fall right in the middle. We've got your back for all of those things. And what we've done is, Cindy has given this great rundown of the history of marketing during a pandemic, a catastrophe, a market downturn. And we wanted to show you the 8 key areas of focus on a typical marketing roadmap, and then kind of choose those areas that have low-hanging fruit that you guys will be able then to initiate some immediate action. So what are we looking at? We've got a marketing roadmap in front of us, which a marketing roadmap organizes a high-level marketing strategy, and it serves as a visual guide showing areas of key focus for upcoming marketing initiatives. While some businesses may use every spoke of this marketing roadmap, others may just target specific areas to aid in achieving their business objectives. Kind of just like, I went and met with my financial advisor and he put out all of this information for me. And then he looked at me as I had a face full of fright and he said, don't worry. You don't have to do all of this at once. You just have to do 1 or 2 things and become really good at those. So yes, that's what we're looking at here with the marketing roadmap. As all of that being said, as we go through this roadmap, we really want you to think through where you are currently with your marketing. Where do you want to go? And if nothing else, just pick one spoke of this wheel and do it really well. The Small Business Development Center has so many consultants available, and all of us can really help you drill down into these topics one-on-one. So if you've got questions, we're here to help you with that. Next slide, please. All right, so brand. We've used this word quite a bit today. A brand is a way a company, an organization, or individual is perceived by those who experience it. More than simply a name, a term, a design, a symbol, a brand is the recognizable feeling of a product or what the business evokes. Your brand experience is important to everyone who interacts with your business. That's the employees, the investors, media, and most importantly, your customers. As a strong brand increases the chances of customers choosing your product or service over your competitors. It attracts more customers at a lower cost per acquisition. And as we go through these spokes on the wheel, we've decided to help you create your strategy by showing you what we know to be the low-hanging fruit. Manageable size bites are best. Next slide. So as we're focusing on these areas of low-hanging fruit to help you give a more cohesive pull-through to your brand and set the foundation for the rest of your marketing strategy moving forward, I kind of chuckle a little bit because the funny thing about low-hanging fruit is that it is often overlooked or pushed aside, mostly because we're all busy. And these tasks are often the ones that give us the biggest impact for the least effort. You need to think of your brand as a pyramid. Getting the first row of blocks on the foundation correct is crucial. Also, usually not the fun part, but those blocks, when they're laid well, you will be able to be more agile with your marketing overall, and that is the fun part, being agile and knowing where you're headed and helping your team also be on that same page. So here we've got our low-hanging fruit list for you. Again, even if you just pick one of these to focus on, you will see results. There really isn't any order which the spokes should be executed aside from the discovery strategy brand audit, which was number 1. You can never go wrong by conducting a full review of your brand across all platforms and its internal messaging. This is because, always having that compass to go back to is very important. After that, I suggest you focus on the next area that you feel you need improvement or that will help you meet your most immediate business goals. We will go into depth into each of these spokes on the roadmap in the following slides. So next slide, please. My favorite, but might be most people's dread point. But at any rate, we've got the brand audit. This is also often called the strategy/discovery session. The purpose behind a brand audit is simple. It's to gain a fundamental understanding of where your brand stands in its current state compared to where you want to go. And we all know that our current state was uprooted, flipped upside down, and right now, everybody's struggling. Just to kind of find out what that new normal is. Conducting this brand audit will definitely help you see where some of those cracks in the system might lie. Okay, next slide, please. I will also mention that a brand audit is different than a website audit or an SEO audit. We can always assist you with those, but in this presentation, we're going to focus on brand. So what is a brand audit? What the number one step to conduct a brand audit would be is to review your messaging across all platforms. Consistency is crucial. And when we're looking at brand, we're talking about things like, of course, the messaging, but also colors, fonts, images, tone, voice. Conducting that side-by-side look at the key messaging also. And why this needs to be done. So I'm sure many of you have been out there online, surfing the web, looking at products, maybe looking at a company that you'd like to purchase from, or even just do business with in general. And when you go to their different areas where they presented their brand, whether it's their storefront, their website, their social media, their flyers, it is a more trusted and cohesive experience when everything matches and sounds the same. And it really just comes down to communication. Communication is key. So you want to make sure all of that is brought together. Next slide, please. Okay, so after you conduct your brand audit, one of the places I tend to go next would be the website. Website tune-up, almost everybody. I don't care if you're on your website updating it daily. There's always something that can be done on a website. I talk about in a restaurant, you are rolling silverware. There's always something to be done. You don't stop. Same thing with your website. It is your number one business tool. Your 24/7, 365 salesperson. It is always or usually your first or even second impression with your customers and potential employees. It is very rare that a person will learn of your business and not look online. Whether that's for trustworthiness or comparison, that is what consumers are doing. Next slide, please. So when we look at a website tune-up, this kind of follows along with that brand audit. You want to make sure you have refreshed content. Everybody is sick of hearing about COVID. However, they also do need to know what they should expect when doing business with you during this time. Communication of, okay, if somebody is to come to your facility, what should they be doing? Are they able to bring their children? Should they be wearing a mask? Are you bringing the product to them? Is it only online sales? Making sure that your pictures are updated and current. I always recommend for websites, especially local ones, that you're not just using stock photography. Easy enough with your iPhones nowadays to go and get a nice looking photo of your employees, things that actually pertain to your business. Page cross-linking. This is something that a lot of people, they've got these beautiful websites, great content, but they've neglected the page cross-linking. So let's say you've got your website, it looks great, and your technical pages, let's say you've got a blog, and in there you're referencing something to do with manufacturing and technical, and you've got a new testing process. Well, that testing process lives on a different page. So cross-linking in your text to that other page, to your contact lists, to your downloadables, that is what Google views favorably. It also puts your user into a favorable navigation experience, which user experience with a website is key. Basic SEO, and I say basic because SEO can just be it can be a long process. However, all websites should have their meta tags and descriptions updated. Focusing on keywords. Keywords are what the search engines use to know that you are credible, that you've got content that the audiences want to hear when they're searching for you. And same thing with image optimization and nomenclature. Cindy always makes me laugh because she uses such a great example. She says, don't just download a photo from your camera and call it D2714. Give it a meaningful name. The search bots, they see that favorably. Also, when somebody's website or somebody's internet isn't able to keep up with your website, or they're in a situation where they possibly, on their mobile and it's cutting in and out, they will still be able to see that description of what it is that they should be viewing. Also, a blog. It's a love-hate relationship with a blog. I'm not suggesting that you need to be publishing content every day, even every week, but having some type of current information, whether it is the COVID information of how to do business with your company, new employee releases, having some type of cadence, even quarterly, of getting that information out, integrating the keywords, the optimized imagery, that is what will help you locally with the search engines, and it's free. You just have to write about 500 words, 500 to 1,000 words, pop that out there, link it up, and you'll start seeing increased traffic to your website. And then if done correctly, you can also utilize that as a lead generation tool. E-newsletter, making sure that people understand that you are what you have to offer. Everybody wants, people who are wanting to do business with you, they want to see inside. What are you doing? What is this business like? What are your employees like? Who are your customers? Just getting that general information out there really builds a lot of trust. Backlinking. So backlinking, that means, and they'll give you a good example of this because our local business bureaus and different entities that we all belong to do a really good job of this. Backlinking is when you collaborate with another business to have your website linked to theirs and then reciprocated backlinking. And what this does is it gives you really good status with the search engines. It also builds trust with your potential customers, your current customers. This is a personal thing. This is something that you don't just go out there and start linking to websites, but contacting people. The restaurant industry does this really well. I can think of a few locally that I just am very impressed with what they've done. Park Street Pizza is a good one. You go to their website, you look at their menu, and they've linked to Bolt's Orchard Farms. They've linked to Sugar Fuse. They've linked to the Tuscarawas County Farmers Market. And each of those websites have also linked back to them. So they're establishing that brand trust. They're establishing that relationship. And that goes really far, not only with SEO, but then also just locally with your customers. Conversion points. So always be building your list. A conversion point would be gathering either an email address via forms, newsletters, downloads, converting to a customer by that purchase, but make sure you have that on there, whether that's a call to action for the download, the form to get more information, the buy now button. I know it sounds silly, but there are plenty of websites out there that don't necessarily have an easy purchase option, even though they're selling online. So make sure that that's all clear. And then last but not least, measure that activity, because everything that we're doing online, and Cindy's going to go more in depth with this a little bit when she reviews some of the Google SEO items out there, but connecting Google Analytics to your website is super important. If you don't have that historical data, then it's difficult for you to decide where to go next. And a good example of this is mobile. You may have a business that receives, let's say, 80% of your traffic via mobile, yet you've not optimized the website mobilely, and that experience is terrible for 80% of the people who are trying to do business with you. Or in the reverse, you may have, and I actually have a manufacturing client right now. I cannot believe this, but they have 92% of their traffic coming in from desktop. And that means that we were able to get a little bit more creative with their website content, because of the fact being that while mobile is still important, and we make sure that their site is still mobilely sound, but that they can focus in different areas and be creative. Okay, website tune-up. Next slide. Oh boy, social media. Social media, guys, it's hard. It's necessary though, and it's a phenomenal asset for communication, building brand trust, and social selling, among other benefits. Social media is a process of increasing traffic, improving brand awareness, and encouraging lead and customer engagement. It's very important. For this presentation, I'm mainly going to focus on Facebook. And the reason for this is because it is still the #1 platform in the world. Others are, YouTube's another great one. obviously Instagram, but do Facebook really well first. Create your plan around that, spend your money there, and then branch out once you have that strategy formed and things are going well. There is no sense in spreading out in a shotgun effect. It's just a waste. So focus on Facebook, especially locally. I'm not saying ignore all the channels necessarily, and you guys will know with your individual businesses where that makes most sense for you. But I would say for about 95% of the people out there right now, Facebook, Facebook, Facebook. Okay, let's see. Next, please. Okay. This is not always true, but it's very common. The common scenario for social media. I'm told to get a Facebook page. I'm a business, get a Facebook page. So then the business gets that Facebook page. They do some posts, nothing really happens. They maybe get a like, a comment. Eventually, usually, social media pages are assigned to the CEO's child or somebody who's young in the office who seems to know digital media. In general, people think, oh, social media, it's a waste of time. I feel like I should be there, but I don't really know what I'm doing. Next slide, please. Why invest? You all know, we all know, I won't spend much time here. I don't need to convince you. Social media, whether we like it or not, is here to stay, and it's an important area that we need to be focusing on. Next slide. All right, so social media, how can you get the edge? Again, referring to Facebook, the proper setup of Facebook, it's important. Making sure that you are taking full advantage of the optimization is there. Facebook changes almost weekly. It's unbelievable how fast that pace is. However, they update the rules for their cover photos. They update the rules for their selling and their stories. Right now, and even though this feature's been out for a very long time, there is a section on every single Facebook business page where you have the opportunity to write sort of like a blog and put more detailed information specific to your company. Most of the people, and I would say, and I don't really have a specific number on this, but it's at least 50-50, if not more, where that area on Facebook is completely blank. Well, your customers can see that. So again, those are things, making sure that you have proper cover photos. That's another thing. On Facebook, you've got this beautiful area to have a cover photo. Sometimes people don't even put a cover photo. Other times people just put a singular photo or they just splash it full of text. It's okay to have text. In fact, you should have text. And there's specific types of text that should be on there. But the desktop version of a cover photo is different than the mobile version, and they need to be the same image. And so you need to be conscious of that as well. Incorporating local check-ins. This is something that's huge, especially if you're local. Encouraging those check-ins amongst your current customers is so easy. This is if somebody is doing business with you and they're about to ring out, or you have an opportunity to slip a flyer in their bag, asking for that check-in. Hey, if you had a great service today or you really enjoy your product, please go online and check in. Let people know that you were here and what you liked. It's free. And then once that happens with the potential customer or the customer, all of their friends see that. So instead of just being one person that you had that reach to, now it's open to this would be the shotgun effect. It's open to all of these other people that you, prior to the check-in, did not necessarily have access to. Following that, the engagement and social selling. Oftentimes I see so many people putting out a Facebook post and they start getting engagement, they start getting comments, but they don't respond back. Ask for that sale. Yeah. Betty down the street, she says, hey, that cupcake looks good. I'd love to have a cupcake like that. Well, turn around and you're the business owner of Cupcake Factory XYZ and say, hey, Betty, we've got one with your name on it. It's very important that you're engaging with people online. Facebook ads and Facebook boosts, I will tell you this, there's a right way to do it. There's a wrong way to do it. Please do not boost a post that does not directly take a consumer to your Facebook page or to your website. I also see this a lot. People will find a really cool article out there. They'll copy the link into their Facebook page, pop it in there. It could even be, really good information related to what it is that you're doing. But then that link takes the potential consumer off of the Facebook page and into a website that is not yours. Don't do that. But for Facebook ads and boosting, that's a whole nother ballgame. But yes, you should be doing those things. Creating Facebook offers, incentivizing people to come in and do business. We all know what an offer is. Absolutely must be doing that. Facebook events. Facebook events are really cool because it doesn't mean necessarily a physical event or even a virtual event. It can also be an event of an offer, for instance. Offers and events are different, but you can do an event that would run all month long that would be a very specific promotion. And then speaking of promotions, we've got running contests and giveaways. There's a right way to do contests and giveaways, and there's a wrong way. Facebook does have pretty strict rules on what you can and cannot do. They will slap your hand hard if you do the wrong thing. However, they do have a very detailed list on how to do that. But what's nice about contests and giveaways is that you can build, especially locally, and for more generalized items, you're able to build a nice list that way. You're asking for something in return, whether it's a Facebook like, an email address, whatever. And you can usually get those in a pretty large amount when you're running the giveaway, especially if you're local because you've got that trust factor. So social media, yes, especially now in the midst of a pandemic, that communication is constantly needed. It's important. I cannot stress this enough. Next slide. And I will leave this next section to Cindy.
Okay, great. Wow, Erica, that was some wonderful information. Some really amazing information too. Thanks a lot. So we're going to dive into local search directories, and after that we are going to dive into email marketing. But I just wanted to mention before we move forward that as Eric has already said, and you can see by what she's presented so far, marketing is a vast subject, and we have a lot of content that we want to get through still for you with the SEO and with the email marketing app. So we wanted to invite you, if you have to leave us at 1 o'clock because of work schedule, please feel free to do so. Deanna will be emailing out all of our support materials, which will be providing a resource list, this PowerPoint, and several handouts for you. So don't feel obligated to continue to stay. We'd love for you to stay, but we did want to offer that for you because we do know the content is pretty deep here. Okay, so moving forward. Search, local search and directories. The big question is, and I don't know if you've ever done this, does your business show up when you type it in to the Google search bar? Next slide. Google My Business, it's free. All these directories are free, but Google is king, as we probably all know. Google ranks you on several factors. This is going to get down into kind of nitty-gritty, but they rank you on relevance, distance, and prominence. You've all noticed on the right-hand side of your web query a business's listing, and that's what we're talking about here. Relevance, though, refers to results that are returned based on how the listing matches what the person's searching for. Google's implementing a thing called RankBrain. It's almost like an artificial intelligence where it's starting to learn and teach its algorithms how to better return search results. So for example, if you're searching, if somebody types in the word dog, it's going to bring back maybe a picture of a dog, maybe a hot dog, maybe breeds of dogs. But if people type in, which is what they typically do, long tail key search terms, meaning that it's a group of words, like let's say they type in dogs in the terrier breeds in North America, then it's going to bring back a very specific kind of listing for you. And that's what relevance is. Distance refers to the distance from you, the searcher, to the proximity of the business from you. And prominence then are the results returned based on the authority of the local business and the inbound links to your site. And Erica touched on that in the web updates. The inbound links are considered a vote of confidence for you, a trust vote with other businesses linking to you. So you want to try to build those links back to you. But those are the way Google starts to rank you on search terms. But do be consistent with your brand. That's so important as you build that brand. Next slide, please. Okay, when you go into Google My Business, just do a search on it, and just, you know, it's available for you. This graphic gives you kind of a snapshot look of the left-hand side of all the key areas of functionality that are available, and the right-hand side of, you know, what you're changing. But it acts a lot like social too. There's a place in there where you can post, which is highlighted here in this slide. You can connect with other potential customers, and you can also share updates and so on and so forth. There are a lot of different functionalities in here. We're going to talk a lot more about how to fill this section out. So next slide, please. Again, we're still in Google My Business. You can see that this shows you an insights, and I love analytics. If you haven't been able to tell, you can discover so many things about how your customers or potential prospects or whatnot are looking for you, and you can see the queries in there, like the actual words they use to uncover your business. You can see how they're looking for you, whether that's on a mobile or a desktop. You can see where they're coming from, so you can geo-target them better. And then you can see the actions they take. Do they bounce off? Are they moving through your site? And then you can see similar businesses to you. So there's a lot of information you can glean by hooking your business up to Google My Business. But I would just say that you know, you need to be consistent when you're filling these directories out, like whether it's Google or Yahoo or even your your social sites now are considered search terms, and we will see that in a minute here. But for example, if you're filling out Google as you're filling it out as Joe's Sandwich Shop, and you're going to fill out Yahoo as Joe's Sub Shop, search engines can't distinguish between words. So, you know, that's going to confuse the search engine. So you need to really be consistent about what you're doing. Next slide, please. I love this graphic. This shows you that Google is king. I mean, this is really what market domination does look like, and this is how people are finding you. What I find interesting about this graph is Google owns, you know, the images, they own YouTube, and they own like 90% of the market on searching. But they also, down at the bottom, you can see how it's segmented out into Yahoo, Amazon, Bing. If you're not surprised, Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter. They're all, like Erica already mentioned, you know, you can find a lot of things, and that's how people are searching now on social media. So keep that in mind as you start to fill out those queries in the back end of your system with your name, your website, your address, and things like that.
I'll make one more note to that, is just to hone in on this a little bit more. Literally, people are going to Facebook and to Pinterest and YouTube for their news. They're going, yes. Of course they go to Google, but they're going there for their news. Facebook has implemented local search options that actually ranks your business page very similar to how Google does. Which is great for local businesses, but it's shocking that that's how our information is changing so rapidly that consumers are starting to not just do your typical news search on Google.
Right. Thank you for that. I did want to run through quickly here on some of the factors that Google ranks you. So site security is the number one. If your website is an HTTP, then ://www. You need to have an HTTPS. The S stands for security. In these days of all this fraud and identity theft, we need to be secure. It also ranks on crawlability, which are links to and within the website that can be discovered and followed by the search engines. Mobile friendliness. That one is huge because over 60% of all views on websites now are done by mobile. So you shouldn't be surprised by that. So do make sure, like Erica mentioned in the, when she was talking about website, that your mobile app is optimized visually as well as with the most important information first. Think of it as the upside down funnel with the big end at the top. At the top, you want them to have the most important information first and then filter down. Page load speed and user engagement is huge. So that kind of ties in with social media as well. High quality content, the right keywords, optimized key content, which Erica already covered, so I'm not going to mention again. Structured data, which is code format. So don't be too concerned. That's down at the bottom anyway. Consistent business listings, that's very important. And your backlink profile, which we've already talked about, and your domain age. The longer you're in business, the more credible you become. Next slide, please. Okay, but beyond Google, all of your listings should be complete. And as Erica mentioned, you don't have to have 20 social media platforms and 15 directories. Just pick the top ones and do them really well. But when you do them, make sure they're complete listings. The search engines, again, they can't discriminate between words on your listings. But to help you out, write down on a piece of paper all the important information you want to include about your business that's on your website. Then include it on all your online marketing channels where it's indicated. And that really can be the basis of your boilerplate for how you talk about your business. Next slide, please. This is just a little graphic that I pulled from a recent webinar I took, and I just thought it was so visually impacting that when you complete all of your fields in your search directories, look at the bump you get from the different area like Google and Yelp. So it's just amazing. Next slide, please. That leads us into email marketing. Now it's 5 till 1. This will probably take us about another 5 to 8 minutes to run through. But you will get all the slides, so if you can hang with us, we'll be done shortly, but if you can't, we understand. So let's jump right into it. 3 parts for successful email marketing. They are strategy, structure, and process. The strategy involves, like with any strategy, you want to build in your goals and objectives and then ladder up to them. The structure involves your branding, layout, content, subject line, which really is the most important. We'll get into that more later. And then the process, the scheduling, frequency, using a calendar, previewing it, and reviewing it. Next slide, please. So really the strategy, structure, and process that we talked about just a minute ago were, that's all low-hanging fruit that we've been discussing in this email. But all of those platforms cost you very little money to actually work on now that you have some time available during this COVID downturn, but it takes a lot of elbow grease. So 2 types of content are curated and created. Curated is that you don't always have to create it yourself. Just be sure that when you reference somebody else, like say you see an article, or if you're a food producer and you want to, if you're a restaurant and you want to use some curated content from an organic farmer, let's say, and you just credit the source and type in a little opening sentence and credit your source, and you can utilize it that way. You can also, you want to just, you just want to make sure that what you're posting then is what your audience is interested in. Created content is stuff that you create, and it's stuff that you know about, and you're willing to give away that information. But again, it has to be interesting to your audience. Using that 80-20 rule, 80% of what you should be creating or posting should be talking about what your customer wants to know. Again, you might use it in a blog. It doesn't always have to be written content. It could be a video, or it can be using tips or something like a National Siblings Day or a National Dogs Day. It can even be a webinar. So, be creative about how you post your content.
I'd like to add one more thing to that, Cindy, because this is something that I have taken to heart, and Cindy is already this way by nature, and I feel that I am as well, but I've really focused on this: give, because then when it's time for the ask, especially with this content, you will have that consumer's undivided attention. So many people hold their best content close to their chest. Give it away, put it out there. That's what people want. That's what's going to make them come to you, and then they will do business with you. Give, ask. And that comes straight from Gary Vee.
That's great. That's great. Thanks. That's a really great thing to remember. Give and then ask.
Yeah.
The content comes in many forms. 80%, like I said, it should be about what your customer is interested in, and it should be informational, engaging. 20% can be about your own company when you're running sales or promotion or things like that. But a lot of companies, the mistake is that they think they should be sharing information about their business only. But instead, just think about that audience. Think about how they perceive that coming from you. Next slide, please. And that leads us into strategy. We're still in strategy. Yeah, we're still in strategy. Then think about how you're going to leverage your touch points. I can't stress this enough. There are so many opportunities. Like Erica just said, when you give, then ask. Ask for their email. I was working with one client who was getting a flood of traffic into her establishment, and when we were working on like how to reach more clients, and I asked the question, where are they coming from? They didn't know. And it's like, just ask for that information. How'd you hear about us? Then ask for an email so that you can remarket to them. If they're coming in from web or social, there are a lot of conversion points that Erica's already talked about that you can incorporate into what you're doing. That's simple, that gives you that list that you could start building, and it builds over time. And before you know it, you have hundreds, if not thousands, of contact points for you to easily market to. They come from mailings and phone visits and a whole bunch of different places. And then you can use that master list then to begin your customer segmentation. Who do you want to know about the specials you're running and such? And then, like, let's say you're a restaurant and you specialize in healthy foods and fine dining, but you've added some wines to your recent product offerings. Maybe you have a list of customers who've asked you about wine, so that would be a whole other list then of prospects that you could start to market to. But then when you want to run like a special or something and maybe feature like a Valentine's dinner or something with special wines, you can incorporate and blend the list and send it out to your entire list. So there are a lot of different ways to approach this, but I think if you aren't collecting those emails, you're missing a great opportunity. So next slide, please. Okay, so part of this let's now move into the structure of email marketing. This is really pretty critical in terms of these different components. Your from line that you see in your email inbox, it's from a particular person or somebody. It should be clear about who it's from. It should be about someone they know, because it's about relationships. It's about, these people want to hear from you. They don't want to hear from some unknown source. That's why we really discourage buying lists, because they aren't personal really, and that they're seen as spammy almost, and they never make it really to the intended person. So do focus on people who want to hear from you. The subject line is probably the most critical line that you can consider to your open rate. It must be compelling, and the first 2 words are the most important. Experiment with different words as you run different marketing campaigns, and really think about only using 5 to 8 words. Consider what customers' questions may be, and then turn those into a subject line. For example, if customers are asking you, let's say you're that restaurant again, and they're asking, what kind of nutrition are you offering in your meals? Do you use products with chemicals in them and stuff? You could turn that into a subject line such as organic fruit and veggies that delight and satisfy. I mean, that would capture those customers that are asking those questions. That would capture their attention. And then do pay attention to your pre-header text. That's the preview text that you see on your emails in your inbox. Typically, 18 words is a rule of thumb. It provides an extra opportunity to describe what's in your email and then why they need to open it and read it. And then you can consider some A/B testing. Now, Eric and I can always help you out with these things that we're talking about. We know there's a lot of stuff here, but A/B testing is a good way to test one subject line against the other. And some of the email marketing programs really help you through that whole process. Then branding, don't forget about that. A lot of the email marketing programs have built-in templates that you can use for your logos, colors, fonts, and all of the branding needs to resemble all of your other marketing. So if if your logo colors and if your branding colors are red and blue, you certainly wouldn't want to send out an email that's green and yellow. So, and you can change those things within those email marketing programs. And then the format is another content area. Depending on the content, this is going to determine the structure of your format. So if you're sending out an e-newsletter or if you're sending out an offer, they're going to look different. But the website should always be part of what you include as a link. And you can include your social links too. But it should always have a call to action, but not too many links, because research has shown if you put too many links in there, customers they'll just ignore them all then. So you do want them to click into, especially your website and your social links. And then finally, we've already talked somewhat about your contact list. You can have several lists, but you should have a main list, and you can segment that list. And then, make sure that your main list includes your opt-in people, as well as your current and your loyal customers, and then by special interests. Next slide, please. So let's talk now about the process. I like that old saying, my mom was great for old sayings, the devil's in the detail. It truly is. And that's really what the process is about. It's about scheduling, putting a send date on the calendar, and then once you're satisfied, paying attention to what happens afterwards. But back to scheduling. Email marketing is really a marketing activity. It will set the stage to generate leads. It gets the information out for you. And then once the leads are generated, the sales process kicks in. The rule of thumb, though, typically is about one time a month. So they can, it can really give you a big payback. Then do put the send date on the calendar. So for example, if you are planning to send your email out on July 1st, there may be a whole series of steps leading up to July 1st that you also need to consider and put those on the dates as well, on the calendar as well. Things like, do I need a photo? What do I need to write? Am I going to find curated content? Do I need an interview? Do I need to optimize the photo and take it into Photoshop and edit it? So all of those things need to back schedule those steps so that you can truly send that out on July 1st, because consistency does matter. People look forward. They know you're going to send out things on a particular date. They'll be watching for it, or they'll be expecting it. When it's just random, then it just seems kind of helter-skelter. And then before you preview it on desktop and mobile, that should be part of your process. As we've already mentioned, people are mostly on, over 50% of people are on mobile. And then do test your links too. You can always send your email to another client or another colleague and have them test it for you, or you can do it to yourself. Then once you're satisfied, the best time in the day depends on your industry and your audience, and you can find that out through your analytics. Then do create social posts after you send out your email, and then do pay attention to your analytics when people open those emails. And if you are sending it out, for example, like at noon, and you see that most people aren't opening it until they get home from work at 5 in the afternoon, then you're going to want to adjust your send your send time and things like that. Next slide, please. Okay, we finally reached the end. So I guess our overarching message is do not stop marketing. Do focus on your loyal and best customers, really always, but particularly now. Choose some of this low-hanging fruit opportunities in the marketing toolbox like we've talked about today, and do adapt to paradigm shifts. Make improvements and updates while you can. You have this time now. What a better opportunity for you. But like Eric and I had a mentor in our working life who used to say, have fun. If you're not having fun, then you should be doing something else. But also we wanted to leave you with this message. Remember, we are here to help. Here at the SBDC, we have a whole stable full of really excellent qualified professionals. Just ask Steve. He's just so willing to help whoever needs it. But we have included resources too that Deanna will be sending out. And if you have any further questions beyond this email or beyond this session, just email those to Deanna and she'll get them to Erica and myself, and we will make sure that you get the answers to those questions. And we just thank you so much for attending. It was our pleasure.
Cindy, Erica, thank you very, very much. I think this was very valuable and useful information. I can't tell you how much we appreciate you doing it on behalf of those that attend today. And a special thank you for those that did attend for taking time out of your busy day to be part of this today. Again, watch for the slides and the handouts and a video recording of this session. They'll be coming to you shortly. A reminder again that June 18th, Michaela will be presenting Identifying the Target Market. That'll be at noon as well. Don't forget that the SBDC is there to help and assist. If we can, please feel free to reach out to me. And I guess in closing, just have a great rest of the day and thank you again.